From far, there wasn't really anything besides two tombstones. These weren't your average tombstones. No, it wasn't made out of stones. Instead, it was marked by several wooden crosses, the only dictation that there were bodies buried here in the first place. There was also a sword stuck deep into the earth, a rusty metallic blade, but nevertheless, it was a weapon of a famous demon. Yes, to outsiders, this place is nothing more but an eerie place, but to the people who know what that blade symbolized, this was the final resting ground of Haku and Momochi Zabuza. Naruto slowly walked to the top, his sake bottle swaying back and forth. "How you guys feeling? Dead?" he chuckled. "It's been a long time, guys." He sat down on the floor, and smiled. "Zabuza-san, Haku-san, cheers." Naruto poured himself a drink, feeling the bitter taste as it went down his throat. He licked his lips after he finished and closed his eyes.
The times are changing. One can no longer live in this world without having a reason. It is that reason that defines who we are, and if we no longer have that reason, we cease to exist. The government is as corrupt as the people who run it. Power is defined by what a person is capable of. With each passing day, more and more suffer. The way people live their lives, shrouded in half-truths and lies.
Naruto poured himself another drink. The times that you once remember is no more, Zabuza-san. The cages themselves are becoming corrupt and the people once again suffer because of it. He stood up and stood in front of the wooden crosses. "No one should pass into the afterlife without first tasting sake. This is my tribute to you guys." Naruto then tilted the bottle sideways, allowing the sake to be poured all over the wooden crosses.
He bowed his head once in respect before disappearing again.
Ino rolled her eyes for the very last time. She couldn't take much more of this nonsense. She felt her teeth grinding on each other, indicating her annoyance.
Slurp.
There was that sound again.
Slurp.
The old man was doing it on purpose to spite her. Just because she disagreed with his view on Naruto. He retaliated by slowly sipping his sake. "Argg!" Ino yelled. She pushed her seat away and stood up, fire gleaming in her eyes. "You win, old man. I'll reserve my judgment for Naruto until I know him better."
Slurp.
"That's all I ask, Ino-san."
Ino's eyebrow twitched at the noise. "I will take my leave now." Slurp. Ino screamed as she ran out of the house, releasing her fury on the suburbs surrounding the house. It would be a cold day in hell before she heard that sound again. "Did you think it was wise to tell that girl about Naruto?" Tsunami asked.
Tazuna shrugged as he poured himself another drink. "Even though he requested that we no longer keep in contact with him, I never agreed to it. That boy needs know that not everyone is against him." Tsunami sighed. "It's a shame that he was treated like that. The world can be cruel sometimes. If the times were different, that boy could have been a fantastic leader. It's a real shame though."
But Otu-san, did we really have to lie about Naruto-kun not being in this village?
"That girl is different, Tsunami. I believe she will be the one." Tazuna laughed as he poured himself another cup. "If anyone can change him, it'll be you." He would drink to that. It wasn't every day that he had lively visitors. He only hoped that he lived long enough to see them again. Naruto sighed as he walked through the thick jungles once more. Not only did he have no clue where the base was, he wasn't even sure where he was himself. Ever since he left Nami no Kuni, he was sure he was heading in the western direction, back to his original location, but unfortunately, he didn't recognize the surroundings. "Damn it. Did I go in the wrong direction again?" Naruto said, gritting his teeth in annoyance. He had a deadline to meet and the clock was ticking. Where the hell is Itachi when you need him? If you only paid attention when I told you before, you wouldn't be in this mess. Look at you. You look like a fresh genin who stepped out for the first time, Naruto-kun.
Naruto's eyes widened. Just now he could have sworn he heard Itachi's voice in the middle of nowhere. Maybe his ears were playing tricks on him. "Are you a mirage?" Naruto asked without turning around.
If you want to know where the entrance of the base is, you better follow me. I won't tell you for a third time. Without another word, Itachi sprinted away, leaping from tree to tree. Naruto turned around quickly and chased after the Uchiha, quickly catching up to him. So where is the base?
Aichi didn't answer his blonde-haired companion. He continued leaping and pointed straight ahead. The temporarily base is located in Kawa no Kuni? Just off the borders of Konoha?
Are you guys stupid? Having a base that close to the enemy is just asking them to storm it. Itachi stopped and landed on a sturdy tree. That's where you're wrong. It is because of that reason that Pain-sama purposely chose it. What better way to elude your enemies than having a base right under their nose? It would be one of the last places they would expect to look. I never thought Pain was the gambling type.
Pain-sama doesn't leave things up to fate. When a person has the power to change the world, fate is in your hands. He doesn't work against fate either. He works with it. With all the chit-chat going on, Naruto did not lose focus for a bit. He subconsciously minded his surroundings, keeping an exact lookout for any sudden attacks. He might be working temporarily under Akatsuki, but it doesn't mean that he was safe yet. In the inner pocket of his cloak, he held an item that was considered to be sent from the gods themselves.
The heart of the waterfall, a necklace that could easily rival the one Tsunade had in value. While they alone are worth enough cash to buy 3 Hokage mountains, each one of them containing great power. The necklace that Tsunade currently holds in her possession contains the power from the Shadaime, her grandfather. It has the ability to suppress and control Ibiju's power. It was also the rumor necklace to cause death for its wearer. Naruto scoffed at that rumor. When he still had it, there was no bad luck and misery in this lifetime that could rival the one that he had been experiencing his entire life. He would even dare fate to try and bring her worse.
On the other hand, the heart of the waterfall contained enough power to grant a single individual the strength of several kage in return for the user's life. It was a double-edged weapon that was fatal for its user. There was something more to this necklace than the power. Naruto knew that for a fact. Pain wasn't exactly the type to go looking for power. He had enough power himself. Him and those eyes of his, the Rinnegan. There was something, probably another use for this necklace, one that could give Pain the edge to succeed in his plan. Whatever that was. What does Pain intend to do with this necklace? Naruto asked.
He will tell you when he is ready. TCH. In other words, you don't know either. Naruto commented. He suspected that only a selective few from Pain's inner circle would know. The rest of his members were probably pawns in his little game. Naruto smirked under his cloak. He would play this little game of his. Just to see how far it goes.
Just as Naruto walked into the base, he saw Pain sitting on top of his throne, a passive expression written across his face. I take it that you had a pleasant journey. Naruto rolled his eyes. It doesn't matter. I completed your mission. He reached into his pocket and produced a familiar necklace. He let it dangle in the air for a bit, proof that he had completed his mission successfully. Pain nodded his head slightly, acknowledging that Naruto completed the given task. Hand it over.
Before Naruto could give Pain the necklace, he sensed an incoming projectile and leapt away. From the corner of his eyes, he saw a brownish bird flying after him. Knowing what this was, he quickly ran up the wall and kicked off. The bird couldn't follow Naruto's movements and collided with the wall, resulting in a small explosion. Art is a bang-ya.
Deidara, Naruto growled out. He glared at the Akatsuki member, his eyes slowly turning red. He started to leak out some killing intent, which alerted Pain to turn his attention to the duel.
Deidara laughed. Is that how you greet a fellow Akatsuki member? Are you still sore about losing your arm? Naruto whispered from behind Deidara. He unleashed a fury of quick and hard punches towards Deidara's midriff.
Deidara quickly turned, using his body's already moving momentum to dodge the Jinchuriki's blow. In his mind, he could see the blows clearly and responded accordingly. Dodging them from left to right, a smirk slowly formed on his face. Is that all you have? Nope. I just didn't want your blood on my cloak.
Deidara released a small angry cry as he spun around and connected his knee to Naruto's gut, causing Naruto to disappear into smoke. Damn you Jinchuriki, where the hell are you? He yelled. From the corner of the room, Naruto crouched against the ground, blending with the shadows. The information from that clone told him all that he needed to know. Ever since his last encounter with the Akatsuki member back during his previous Anbu days, things have changed significantly. Deidara was no longer just a long-range fighter. He somehow improved and adapted his body to become a more rounded fighter as a whole. The man's fighting style reminded him of a dancer. A very ugly one, but judging by the way he moves, it was as if he was anticipating and reacting just before his blows connected. Deciding that enough was enough, Naruto held up a single hand seal and concentrated. Several cage bushions appeared, and with a single plan in their mind, they knew what to do. Deidara growled as he looked around. Where are you hiding, you filthy rat?
Here. It was the same procedure, attacking using the shadows. Deidara already foresaw his opponent's attack pattern, studying and committing it to memory. He knew what Naruto liked, what he hated, how he attacked, and what jutsus he preferred to use. This was how far along he came just to get his revenge. Deidara ducked under a blow, and went for an uppercut, but before he could land it, the Naruto he was fighting disappeared in a puff of smoke. Caught off guard, Deidara quickly jumped up, narrowly avoiding an attack from below. Where are you looking? Naruto whispered from above.
Deidara quickly looked up and saw Naruto with his trademark Rasengan aimed for him. He intuitively reached into his back pocket and his hand went straight to work. In a mere matter of seconds, his own trademark jutsu was complete.
Kibaku Nendo. C4 Karira. Rasengan.
Before these two attacks connected, Pain appeared in midair, stopping them before they could connect their attacks. With a simple twist, he caught both of them on their wrist and threw them to the ground with ease. Deidara landed face first into the floor while Naruto landed on his feet, the Rasengan slowly disappearing. I will kill the both of you myself if this happens again. Do I make myself clear? Pain's voice rang out through the room. Even though it was stoic, the man's intentions were clear. Deidara grunted a response as he pulled himself up, dusting his cloak. Crystal Leader Sama. Crystal, Naruto muttered. He was impressed with the way Pain handled the situation. It was no easy feat to interrupt their duel, even if they weren't going all out. They were still going beyond normal expectations. To stop them just before their attacks connected said something about the man's skill. Pain-sama, I have gathered them as you requested. A hollow-like voice spoke up, interrupting Naruto from his thoughts. Everyone's accounted for.
He turned to the source of the voice, dark figure slowly appearing from the wall. Naruto had to narrow his eyes to recognize the shadowy figure. Zetsu, he muttered under his breath.
From behind him, he could see the infamous Akatsuki members slowly walking in one by one. Let's get this over with. We have a bounty to catch. A deep voice said. Maybe we can sacrifice the victim to Lord Jashin this time. An overly cheerful voice replied.
Where did Deidara-senpai run off to, guys? A voice whined. Maybe he finally decided to become a holy sacrifice to Lord Jashin. No, the voice whined.
The three members walked through the door whom Naruto recognized as Kakuzu and Haiden, but that last member, he didn't recognize. He looked weird compared to the others and frankly, kind of weak. Deidara-senpai, the member with the orange mask on shouted. You're alive. He eagerly ran up to Deidara and attempted to hug him but failed. He was greeted with a foot in his face. Never hug me, stupid idiot. Deidara shouted as he stomped on his apprentice. I told you 1,000,000 times. I don't like hugs.
Naruto watched the pair closely and shook his head in disgust. Pathetic, he whispered to himself. It's time to begin. Phase 2, Pain coolly stated. Every Akatsuki member turned their attention towards their leader, and nodded their head. Silence reigned throughout the chamber as all eyes were focused on him. Let the games begin.
Konoha, Hokage Chambers. I hope you realized what your actions caused me, Ino Yamanaka. Tsunade sternly stated.
Ino deeply bowed her head, already having apologized for her actions. She just recently returned from her trip in Nani no Kumi, and despite all the annoying old men she met along the way, the country was actually a great vacation spot. The weather was just lovely, at a constant temperature where it wasn't too hot or too moist. Seeing all the different variety of flowers, there was also a plus as well. Again, I am deeply sorry for my actions, Tsunade-sama, but it would help if you explained to me what I actually did wrong. Shizune sighed. Tsunade-sama, did you not tell her the events when she walked in? I was getting to that before you interrupted, Tsunade growled. Like I was saying before, due to your absence on the council meeting a couple of days ago, I have to now mark Jiraiya as a missing nin for the sole purpose of finding Naruto. The council, from my opinion, greatly fears Naruto.
Is it because of the Kyuubi? Tsunade snorted. If it was only that simple. They think Naruto is the second coming of the Kyuubi. I bet somewhere in their tiny minds they think Naruto absorbed the Kyuubi, all the knowledge and power that the beast contains. Since none of those people knew Naruto's location, I'm forced to consider Jiraiya a traitor, and thanks to your old teammate Sasuke, the sunshine in Sakura's life, the ray of blossom, the love of her life. Ino's eyes twitched as she listened to her Hokage ramble on and on with Sasuke. What the hell did the Uchiha have to do with this anyway? I get the point, Hokage-sama. What did he do this time? That little bloody bastard came up with the most ridiculous idea of using Jiraiya as bait while they lure Naruto into their trap. Trap? Did they expect to kill Naruto? I mean, no offense to our ninjas, but I seen him single-handedly stopping Sasuke's Reikiri and Sakura's insane chakra-induced punch. If he can do that, what are their chances of succeeding? Tsunade sighed and shook her head. It's not that I care if that little bastard dies or not, but it's what Naruto does afterwards that worries me.
You don't think? Yes, I think he will. He's not the type of person to let someone walk over him. He'll retaliate and he'll strike where it hurts the most. Tsunade nodded her head and Shizune got up, shutting the door before quickly performing a jutsu. Ino narrowed her eyes and looked around. What's going on, Hokage-sama?
Tsunade smirked. We're going to get to Naruto first. Are you joking? Ino saw the devious smirk on her Hokage's face, and insane was just a polite word that she used. There were other words like stupid, ridiculous, and insane that came to her mind when she saw the look on Tsunade's face. Listen, Ino, I believe there's a reason why Naruto spared you that day. I think he saw a little bit of himself in you. You were in the same position as he was before, the act of betrayal by your friends. He saw that you were going to die at Sasuke's hand and he unintentionally saved you. He might not know it, but I believe that you might be able to awaken the true Naruto that lies dormant in that dark shell of his.
Geez, you are the second person this week who told me this. What is going on with everyone connecting me to Naruto? We're nothing alike. Tsunade, at the point, had to let out a small chuckle. Listen to me, Ino. As a fellow woman, and Shizune can agree with me on this. If Naruto really wanted to kill you, he would have done so without a second thought. There is a reason, and even though we don't know what it is, I'm going to gamble everything I have on my first theory.
Ino nervously laughed. She heard about Tsunade's gambling days and the nickname that she earned. The people that she gambled with gave her the title of the legendary sucker. It made her wonder how badly a person's luck must be if they received a title like that. No matter how she looked at it, betting with Tsunade usually ended in something bad.
She glanced at Shizune, who was sadly shaking her head. Tsunade, on the other hand, was grinning like a fool.
Well, Ino, what do you think? Think you'll be able to help me out with my plan?
Ino gulped as she looked into Tsunade's eyes. If she said no, Tsunade would probably kill her with one punch, and if she didn't die from that, she would never hear the end of it. I guess so.
Great, now here's the plan, Tsunade said as she flung one arm around Ino and pulled her closer. This is what you're going to do.
Akatsuki base.
Phase 1 has been completed thanks to Uzumaki Naruto, our newest member. The heart of the waterfall is now in our possession. Some of you might remember him from our past encounters, but regardless of what happened, he is one of us now. Do I make myself clear?
Pain looked around, receiving several nods from around the room. For Phase 2, we will be splitting into teams. Our objectives are the original secret scrolls from each village, which means I need teams to go to Suna, Iwa, Konoha, Kiri, and Kumo. You are to go in and retrieve it. I don't care if you have to slaughter everyone in the village, just get me the scrolls. Toby looked around the room before raising his hand. Excuse me, Leader Sama.
Pain turned his head towards Toby and glared. What is it?
So you want us to just walk right to those countries, ransack the village for the original secret scroll, and then come back here alive?
If you don't retrieve it, you're better off dying there because I'll kill anyone who fails this mission. Toby gulped. I understand. Good, now here are the teams. Pain looked around the room, making some quick decisions in his head before pointing towards Deidara and Toby. You two will go to Iwa. I'm sure you guys will leave with a bang. Pain then pointed to the next team. Hidan and Kakuzu. You will travel to Kumo and retrieve it. I'm sure there are plenty of bounties there to satisfy your needs, Kakuzu. Just make sure that you get the scroll.
Zetsu, you go into Kiri since you can infiltrate their defense easily. Itachi, you will go to Suna. Even with Gaara as the Kazekage, I'm sure you can subdue him easily.
Naruto held his breath, knowing that he was the only one left. He saw Pain slowly turning his head and looked at Naruto. Uzumaki, you will go to Konoha. I'm sure you personally know where the scrolls are kept. It's done, Naruto replied. What are you planning on doing with this Pain?
Pain smirked slightly, a facial expression that rarely graces his face. That doesn't concern you, Uzumaki. Naruto growled and glared. To hell with your plans then. If you're not telling me, then I'm not doing your dirty work. Pain narrowed his eyes and returned an equally cold glare. Do you not trust me, Uzumaki? Naruto scoffed. You can't blame me. You did try to kill me in the past. How would I know that you wouldn't try it again?
Deidara laughed. Fool, we gave up with hunting the Bijus because the Hachibi left this world. Without it, we couldn't continue with our original plan of purifying the world. Once you retrieve those original scrolls, I will tell you, but not a moment sooner. Pain said as he turned around, but he stopped halfway, remembering something. Zetsu, give him the robes. He then disappeared into the room, not caring what the rest of them did afterwards.
Yes, my lord.
The Akatsuki members stood there, watching their leader disappear back into a hidden room. One by one, they all left towards their destination until there was only Zetsu and Naruto left.
Here, Zetsu dully said as he threw Naruto a set of dark robes.
Naruto caught the garment easily and spread it apart, slowly feeling the soft fabric. It's very ironic. A few years ago, we were enemies and now we're working together. Who would have thought? Naruto pulled the string near his shoulders and his old cloak slid right off. He swung the new cloak around him and felt the soft fabric on his skin. Let's see what the future has in store for me. You want me to what? Ino yelled out. Are you insane? Shizune also yelled. The two stood there, staring at their Hokage with widened eyes. That goes against all protocol, Tsunade-sama. Trust me, this will work. Tsunade answered in her defense. If Ino travels with Jiraiya for a while, they're bound to run into Naruto and maybe she can talk to him on my behalf.
What about the part about marking Jiraiya-sama as a missing nin?
Oh, don't worry about it. The paperwork goes through me as usual. Tsunade snickered. I'll just lose the paper somehow and make up some other prosperous excuse of not getting it down. Besides, the bingo book can only be updated every 3 months. That leaves us with exactly a month to get this job done. Shizune and Ino stood there with their jaws slightly ajar. They couldn't believe what they were hearing. Their own Hokage, throwing a monkey wrench into the plans of the council. Weren't they supposed to work together in bringing harmony to the village? But, what the hell are you going to do about me? Mark me as a missing nin as well. Ino protested. I never agreed to that.
Never, Ino. I will be sending you out on a long-term escort mission for a month instead. No one will be much wiser.
Tsunade-sama, this is highly unfair to Ino. Shouldn't you even get her consent first? Shizune said, bringing up her own thoughts about the situation.
Fine, Shizune. I will ask her what she thinks. Tsunade said as she rolled her eyes. Well, Ino Yamanaka, do you accept the mission?
Ino looked at Tsunade, who was smiling sweetly at her, but in her right hand held a medium-sized paperweight. A metallic one. Ino watched the paperweight collapse from under the pressure of Tsunade's death grip. The fist slowly closed, causing the paperweight to shrink in size until it became a fourth of its original size.
I accept, Ino hastily replied, her eyes still watching the object in Tsunade's hand. Great. Now just relax while I get in contact with Jiraiya. Be ready to leave at a moment's notice. Tsunade happily answered as she threw her now crushed paperweight towards the wall.
Ino watched as the metallic object, crushed and disfigured, leave a mark in the wall from the impact. She let out a small leap as it slowly dropped to the floor. It was a good thing that she agreed with the plan, or she would have been like that paperweight.
Shizune glared at Tsunade, waiting for her mentor to continue. Tsunade saw the dirty look that Shizune was giving her, but ignored it until Ino was completely hooked on her idea. Since it's settled, I want you to rest up and be prepared for anything. I have an odd feeling from the depths of my stomach that something is going to happen soon. Be on your guard, Ino.
Hi. Ino bowed and left the room. Her only thought in the head was how she was supposed to play her role in this game of Tsunade's. She only sighed as she headed back to her apartment, wanting to take a much long overdue bath. Explain, Shizune said as she watched the door shut itself from the outside. Why did you send Ino with Jiraiya? You could have sent me.
Tsunade shook her head. I know those old farts on the council are monitoring my every move, and I'm sure they're watching yours as well. I can't afford to send you away because it would alert them, and I don't want them catching on too fast. The reason I sent Ino is because of her history with Naruto. Maybe she can get through to him, and she is also a member on the council, so they don't suspect her yet. She can move under the radar, whereas you will have a much harder time. So we're going to let Ino rush into her own death. Never. If everything goes according to plan, she will be unharmed.
But you're sending her with Jiraiya. Are you sure he won't do anything perverted with her? Shizune asked, a sense of insecurity in her voice. Sending a female to accompany Jiraiya was just like sending a lamb into a lion's den.
Tsunade smirked. Ino's not known as the best torture and interrogation expert in Konoha for nothing, Shizune. If that pervert crosses the line, I'm sure she'll hurt him where it hurts the most.
Shizune sighed. Okay, but just to be clear, I'm not 100% on board with your plan. It's alright. It's my burden alone to carry, and I don't need you to help me. I'll do just fine. Tsunade dropped back into her seat and closed her eyes. If I don't do this now, I'll never forgive myself.
Shizune had a sad smile on her face as she watched Tsunade, who was like an older sister to her, slump in her chair. She was facing the world alone, and she didn't have any family members left but her. Jiraiya and Naruto left Konoha, and it was now up to her to see that Tsunade was going to keep herself out of trouble. Just as Shizune closed the door behind her, she missed the tears that was falling out of Tsunade's eyes. Tsunade knew herself that she was crying, and it was because of all the regret that she held in her heart. There was just so much a person can bear before collapsing. If she still had Naruto, she could endure any burden to make that kid Hokage.
If she had Jiraiya, she might have to tolerate it with his occasional support, but they were family to her. They were the only ones that came close of being her only family, but now, they were gone. All she had left was Shizune, and she would be damned if Shizune was taken from her just like the others.
Is it finished, Sasuke?
Yes, Shinrei-sama, Sasuke replied, a smile on his face. This was the moment he was waiting for. The moment of revenge. After all these long months of training, of sacrifice, he would finally have his revenge on Naruto.
Shinrei stood up and started to laugh. An evil, maniacal laughter erupted from the man shrouded in complete darkness. Sasuke couldn't help but smirk at his antics.
Soon, Konoha will be under my control. Those fools on the council are completely clueless to my plans. It is only a matter of time before I launch my takeover. Shinrei clapped his hands together and opened one hand, a bright orange flame appearing at the center of his palm. Do you know what this is, Sasuke? A flame, Sasuke answered, uninterested with where this conversation was going. No, you fool. This is what Sarutobi claims to be the will of fire, a trait that every Konoha citizen has within themselves. When I rise to power, I will crush it. Shinrei shouted and he closed his palm, making a fist. You are the fool, Shinrei. Sasuke thought as he watched his so-called master continue with his laughter. When I'm through with you, I'll end up controlling Konoha. A fool like you will never understand the true power that this village has to offer.
Where is that fool Danzo hiding, Sasuke? Sasuke shrugged his shoulders. I have my men on the lookout as we speak. They have been given orders to eliminate and dispose of that fool.
Good, Shinrei answered. And what of the demon? They brought my plan. I'm just waiting on the Nara fool to make a plan and for the bingo book to be updated. Once both parts have been complete, I will personally kill him.
Even though Sasuke couldn't see Shinrei right now, he had a pretty good guess on what was going on in that man's head. Not once since he offered his services to this man, Shinrei, had he seen the man's identity. Get out of my sight. That was the man's reply. Short and straight to the point. Sasuke activated his Sharingan and watched the man fade back into the shadows. No matter how many times he had his bloodline activated, he couldn't learn the secret to that trick. No chakra residue, no chakra whatsoever.
Sasuke deactivated the Sharingan and gritted his teeth. It's only a matter of time until I find you, Shinrei, Sasuke muttered under his breath as he too disappeared from the room.
Somewhere just outside of Konoha, standing somewhere in the region of Konoha, stood a man of indescribable traits. He was not your average man, and by far, he was one of a kind. Unique if he was compared to others.
This man stood at a good 5 foot 10 inches with his golden locks swaying casually in the wind. While this man paled in comparison other muscular ninjas, he was by no means a pushover. Where he lacked in muscle, he made up for with his skills and knowledge. Push and train to limits where a normal human would have given up, he surpassed everyone's expectations.
His cold cerulean eyes strike fear into the heart of many.
His reputation has spread to all the great villages and even fresh genin have been taught to stay away from him for that he is the only ninja to be branded the rank of SS.
He is Uzumaki Naruto, the man who is known as the Silent Storm.
Naruto stood on top of a tree, concentrating chakra to the point where the tip of the tree met his foot. He stood there, his eyes closed and his new cloak swaying in the wind. He could almost hear everything, the birds, the leaves rustling, the rushing water in a brook and the faint cries of some animals in the forest.
He knew he was close to Konoha, and he knew what he had to do. Job. That was what this was. A job. He never expected to come back to Konoha. The only way he was coming back is if he was dead, and his body being dragged by several hunter nins. Konoha, the place that forsaken him. Konoha, the place that caused him nothing but pain and suffering. Konoha, the place where he swore he would never return to.
This was Konoha, the place where he would be passing judgment on.
Let the games begin.
A great revolution in just one single individual will help achieve a change in the destiny of a society and, further, will enable a change in the destiny of humankind. Daisaku Ikeda. 6 p.m., Iwagakure no Sato. Deidara had his eyes closed. His attention was centered towards one thing and one thing only, the success of this mission. He had to succeed, he must. Failure was not an option here.
Deidara-senpai, you sure we can pull this job off? According to this statistical graph compiled by yours truly, our odds don't look that great.
The sound of his partner's voice disrupted him from his daily mediation. He opened one eye and saw Toby sitting near the front of the ride, his back turned to him. He fought off the urge to accidentally swing his foot forward. Of course we'll succeed, who do you think you're talking to? This will be a piece of cake. Deidara laughed. Don't worry so much Toby, it will go according to plan. Trust me on this. But what if we run into the Tsuchikage? I heard he's literally called the fortress. Toby shuddered at the thought. I mean, what does he need to look like to have people calling him the fortress? Look like one. A mental picture formulated itself inside the young Akatsuki member's head. Deidara rolled his eyes. Don't believe everything you hear Toby. The Tsuchikage is just a pile of bones. Just leave him to me and focus on getting the scroll. Toby nodded his head. Leader Sama wanted the original secret scrolls from each village. What does he mean by that? The original scrolls. Deidara suppressed the urge to laugh at his partner's expense. It wasn't a surprise that no one knew about the original scrolls. It wasn't a secret, it was just forgotten over time, lost in the pages of ninja history. The missing nin grinned and pulled out some of his famous clay. This is what the original scrolls look like Toby. Deidara worked his artistic skills and within moments, the clay took shape, forming a regular scroll. The reason why they're called the original scrolls is because when the great villages were first formed, the very first kinjutsus were written on this special kind of paper. As more and more jutsus were classified as forbidden, the Kages saw that there was no way this paper could hold any more information, so they opted to switch to a bigger, longer scroll which they now called the Forbidden Scrolls. Toby nodded his head furiously. I get it now Deidara-senpai. All I have to do is search for the scroll and then we can run for the hills. Deidara chuckled. Idiot. His eyes wandered past Toby as they watched the sun setting slowly over the horizon. No matter what happens today, leave the Tsuchikage to me. Your main priority is to search for the scrolls. I am your backup, your distraction. You got it? Deidara-senpai, I understand. Toby replied. The feelings of his words were still left hanging in the air. You know, Deidara-senpai, I can't help but feel that you know the Tsuchikage personally or something. Now why would you say that? Was the seemingly amused response from the clay user. I don't know, Toby answered. I can just tell by the tone of your voice. The way you talk about him. TCH. Deidara scoffed. There is no relation between me and that old coot. He answered. We are enemies, nothing more. Toby jumped up from his spot and clapped his hands, as if he just figured out something. I know what happened. You slept with the Tsuchikage's daughter. That's probably the reason why he hates you. Deidara's eyebrow twitched and quickly connected his fist with the back of Toba's head. Idiot. Keep your irrational comments to yourself and let me regain my focus here. The artist took a seat once more, a scowl adorning his features, trying to ignore all that had been said by his partner. He spoke one last time before meditating once more. It's time we prepared ourselves. Toby groaned as he rubbed the sore spot on the back of his head. Yes, senpai.
15 minutes later.
Are you sure this is the best way to enter? Toby whispered. Yes. No one is expecting it. Covered by the night sky, the giant clay bird slowly descended from the heavens. It flapped its large wings slowly and softly, not wanting to attract any attention to itself. The shadows of the night hid its figure perfectly, allowing it to descend into the city without any problems. The village was sheltered behind large mountains, gaining solitude and protection from outside forces. As soon as the bird was low enough, the Akatsuki duo jumped off and landed on the balcony of the Tsuchikage chambers quietly. Deidara waved his hand and dispelled the large bird, returning it back to clay once more. Which way do I go, Deidara-senpai? Toby asked. Up, down, left or right? Quiet you idiot, Deidara hissed. He walked over to the glass doors before peeking inside. He waved hand, signaling for Toby to come over. Okay, you see the desk? Toby looked inside and saw the large desk. Yes, senpai. Is it hidden inside it? Deidara shook his head. The old man's cautious about leaving valuable things in the open. He keeps everything he considers important downstairs, just directly beneath his desk inside an iron safe. Deidara looked around the office some more, his eyes carefully searching the room for something that could prove troublesome to their mission. A large painting, books, a green carpet, the old man didn't even bother to redecorate. He mumbled to himself. When he felt that the room was secured enough, he reached over to the doorknob and picked the lock, granting them entrance inside. Let's go, Toby, Deidara said as he pulled the door open. Toby. He turned around and saw that his partner was nowhere in sight. He turned back around and saw Toby sitting on the desk, and even though his face was behind a mask, the blonde shinobi knew there was a smudge grin hidden out of his sight. What kept you, senpai? Deidara growled and marched over. Shut up and go do your job. I'll keep watch out here. I've been expecting you, Deidara. A bored voice interrupted Deidara's instructions. The Akatsuki pair quickly turned around, surprised that someone else was in the room besides them. Who's there? Toby asked. I saw you coming before you even created your transportation, Deidara. I saw you coming before you even got up this morning. Are you psychic? Toby asked. His voice was like a child, filled with curiosity and excitement. Can you tell me when you saw me coming? Toby, Deidara yelled out. Quit messing around. He is not psychic. Show yourself, old man. The voice chuckled. As you wish. A sudden increase of chakra alerted Deidara and Toby towards the painting that hung on the wall. The painting slowly disappeared, revealing a man who looked like he was in his 70s. He was dressed in professional cage robes with the hat leaning forward, covering his face. Deidara growled as he watched a man appear from the painting. I thought it was funny that you left your office so early. The Tsuchikage smiled. I heard the flapping sounds from your clay bird from a mile away, Deidara. You can't fool these old ears. Are you sure this is the Tsuchikage, Deidara-senpai? Toby asked. The young apprentice looked over the old man carefully. Don't let his appearance fool you, Toby. This man was once known as the impenetrable fortress of Iowa because of his unmovable defense. He was known for his battle techniques both on and off the field. He was the youngest person to ever hold the position of Kage in this village. Hidekatsu Shibata, the 5th Tsuchikage of Iwagakure no Sato. Shibata clapped his hands happily. I'm glad you're still as sharp as ever, Deidara. Deidara narrowed his eyes and spat on the ground. Cut the crap, you old geezer. Get to it, Toby, I'll cover you from here on out. Toby nodded his head and began to sink into the ground. Don't die, senpai. I really don't feel like carrying your carcass back to base. Like I would lose to the likes of him. Deidara retorted. He watched as Toby disappeared into the ground, making his way towards the safe. His eyes fixated themselves on his opponent, who was smiling cheekily at him. No hug, Shibata asked. Is this how you greet me, Deidara? Oh, I'll hug you, good old man, when I kill you. Deidara sneered. Shibata sighed. After all these years, you still haven't learned any manners. And with one quick motion, the Tsuchikage pulled off his traditional garbs, revealing battle armor underneath his robes. I guess it's about time that this old man corrected his mistakes from the past and drilled them into your head once and for all. Deidara stood his ground, a sadistic expression gleaming on his face. Bring it, Gramps. 6:30 p.m. Kurigakure no Sato. This is the office of the Mizukage. It's pathetic. Does the man have no style? No personality? A dark voice speculated. His partner, on the other hand, remained quiet as he looked over the room. It seems like Mizukage Dono was in a rush today.
Why do you say that?
His desk seems to have been pieced back together rather sloppily after it got destroyed somehow, and the papers on it have all been shuffled around. So this guy is a slob. Let's just get this job over with. Zetsu slowly appeared from the face of the wall, his body slowly emerging from it. We should split up and see where the scrolls are. The light side stated. He moved over to the vast library behind the desk, for the office of the Mizukage was decorated with books and scrolls. This guy must be a nerd to have all these books. The darker side smirked and held up a one-handed seal. Musaisi Shoku no Jutsu. Zetsu suddenly began to tremble and shake all over. He crouched and within moments, the body split apart. Finally, I'm free. The darker side of Zetsu laughed. Let's tear this place to pieces. The lighter side of Zetsu coughed as he regained his composure. No, we have a mission to do. You look downstairs while I look in this room. The sooner we can find it, the sooner we can leave this place. Thanked Kami, you're the boring side. I wonder how life would have been if you didn't have me around. A lot better, the lighter side of Zetsu retorted. He could see the scowled look on his other half's face and enjoyed it. Get to work.
Slave driver.
Weakling. The darker side growled and started to sink into the floor. Don't do anything up here that I wouldn't do, he stated. The lighter side rolled his eyes and walked over to the desk. Point dully noted. When his other half finally disappeared, he began searching through the desk. TCH. Mizukage Dono is sure a messy man, he commented as he threw the useless papers onto the floor. The desk was by no means neatly organized. Papers were flung all over the place, crumpled and ripped. Coffee and tea spills were still visible on some parts of the desk. Aside from the mess that was on the top layer, the inside of the drawers were carelessly filed together. Unlocked and accessible to the first person who opened the file cabinet were the Anbu personnel files, complete with personal information, ability rankings, and pictures of the unmasked shinobi, leaving their identities exposed to the world. Placing those inside his robes for later follow-up, he kept on rummaging through the mess until he deemed that the desk had no further use. With a long, drawn-out sigh, Zetsu walked over to the huge library and skimmed through the books. No, not it, not even close, the half-man, half-plant mumbled as he speedily read the titles. How to entice the opposite sex. Zetsu raised his eyebrow in surprise. The man must be a loser. He chucked the book behind him and continued his search. With the other Zetsu. Ha, that loser probably got the worst part of the deal, searching through the even bigger loser's library. This should be a piece of cake for me. What he didn't know that he was about to reach a chamber only a selective few had dared to enter. The chamber of the third Mizukage. The darker half of Zetsu finally reached the basement, and when he got there, his eyes widened in surprise. Oh, holy mother of shit. Standing before him was a room that was twice the size of their hideout. Their cave could easily hold 1,000 people, but their cave paled in comparison to this. This loser has his own secret base here. Zetsu slowly entered the sacred room, and the first thing he saw troubled him even more. What the hell? What kind of conceited freak would even put a portrait of himself up like this? He brings shame to the name of losers. The room itself wasn't bad. It was luxurious in size and comfort, but the smell was horrible. He had to bite his own tongue to keep himself from vomiting. Even dead bodies don't smell this bad. It took enormous willpower to keep himself focused on finding the scroll. Aside from the smell and the hideous portrait staring at him, Zetsu considered himself lucky. The room had small shelves that held nothing but boxes, drawers. This doesn't look that bad. Should be an easy job. His expression soon changed when he opened the first drawer. Inside the first drawer were scrolls, hundreds of them, somehow compressed to fit inside the medium-sized drawer. Zetsu's eyes twitched as he took a step back and stared at the entire room, filled with drawers. What the freaking hell is this? He yelled out in frustration. The man is a freak of nature. I'll kill him. 7 p.m. Sunagaku no Sato. Gaara, the fifth cage of Suna. The Demon of Suna. Those were the titles that were earned and given. He could easily crush any advancing army without moving a finger. His absolute defense was legendary among ninjas. Only a handful of techniques were able to pierce through his armor, and for those ninjas who managed to do it, usually didn't live to tell about it. He accomplished many things in his life, and yet, there was still something he was still unable to do. No matter how hard he tried, he couldn't win. The obstacle. The woman standing in his office with an angry, unreadable expression on her face. Well, I'm waiting for your excuse, Gaara. Gaara felt the insane amount of killing intent leaking out from the woman. Whoever claimed that women were the weaker sex of the human race obviously needed to have their head examined. As strong as he was, there was still no way he could look this woman in the eyes and start explaining himself. Gaara. The woman said his name again. Her voice was calm, but it was laced with anger. Like a snake hiding in the grass, waiting for the perfect opportunity to strike. Gaara's eyes quickly searched for a way out, but noticed that the windows were conveniently shut and the doors were closed. He couldn't use the sand to destroy her. It was unreasonable, and she'll most likely wait for him in the afterlife. An idea suddenly popped into his head and he lowered his head, a small grin on his face. Before the woman could register the fact that Gaara disappeared from his seat, she found herself standing very close to the cage. She started to open her mouth to yell, but before she had a chance, Gaara lowered his mouth and captured hers in a passionate kiss. Gaara could feel her anger melting away as she put her arms around his neck as his arms were around her waist. They continued the kiss for a good few minutes before she broke apart for air. Slightly panting, she tried her best to sound angry, but just staring at her husband, she couldn't find an ounce of anger in her. That was unexpected. Gaara held his wife closer and hugged her tightly. I'm just full of surprises, Matsui. He lowered his head slightly and whispered. I hope you forgive me for being late. Even after 2 years of marriage, Matsui found herself blushing as she felt Gaara's breath tickling her ear. It made her feel special the way Gaara acted around her when they were alone. Of course I forgive you, Gaara. I love you more than anything. She sighed as she rested her head on his strong shoulders. I just wish you would stop working so hard. Gaara nodded his head. I'll try not to work so much in the future, Matsui. He reluctantly released her and gave her a light kiss on the lips. Why don't you go home first? There's something I still need to take care of. Matsui pouted and wanted to reason with him, but she stopped when she noticed that his expression suddenly became serious. She had seen this same look before, and it usually meant that something was wrong. Okay, I'll wait for you at home, she said. She gave him one last kiss before pulling away slowly. Be careful, she whispered. Gaara nodded his head as he watched her leave the room. He took a deep breath and sighed. It's rude to spy on people when they are having intimate moments. I know you're here. Come out, Uchiha. A figure suddenly appeared from the windows, an amused expression written on usually stoic his face. How did you know I was there, Kage Dono? I thought I did a pretty good job hiding myself. If you have forgotten, we're in a desert, surrounded by sand. There is no place in my village where you can hide, Itachi. Now tell me, what did you hope to accomplish by coming into my office like this? Itachi remained emotionless as he took a step forward. You have something that I want, Gaara. Give it to me or I'll have to kill you. Gaara, with his usual stoic expression on his face, stared at the missing nin. What makes you think you can kill me, Itachi? You forget that you're surrounded by the desert. It's my territory here. Itachi shrugged. Petty threats only make you weak, Gaara. I'd hate to see your wife crying over your dead body. Gaara growled. Leave her out of this, Itachi. What do you want? The Biju or the location of Naruto? Neither of those. I just want your village scrolls.
Why?
It's none of your concern. Give me the scrolls and I'll leave peacefully. The two men, both equally great in terms of their skills, but the difference in beliefs set them apart. One walked the path of chaos and destruction while one walked the path of salvation. They were both known as antisocial people, but they acted based on their own beliefs and goals. Not once caring about what other people thought.
Uchiha Itachi. Sabaku no Gaara.
While I have no relations to Konoha, I can't let you leave here alive, Itachi. You're a wanted missing nin, and if I just let you walk out of here without some kind of fight, I would be in trouble. Itachi nodded his head in agreement. Then let's do this. The Uchiha blinked once and the Sharingan appeared. Let's see what the Godime Case Cage can do. Gukakyu no Jutsu. Gaara narrowed his eyes and held his palm in front of him. A wall of sand instantly rose up, shielding their master from the fiery blast. Is that the best you can do? Gaara taunted while a smile formed on his lips. It's been a while since he had a good fight. You know, you remind me of someone. Itachi answered before charging head-on. With his Sharingan appearing in his eyes, he could see the way Gaara was directing the sand. It still seemed slow, but it doesn't matter. He had heard about this absolute defense of his, and well, rumors are sometimes exaggerated. Several sand spikes appeared from the floor, causing Itachi to increase his pace. From the corner of his eye, he could see Gaara fully concentrating on the sand, and Itachi used it to his advantage. He began flipping through hand seals at an extremely fast rate. Suigaden. Upon hearing the name of that attack, Gaara's eyes widened as he saw water appear from his office. Drills composed entirely of water came flooding straight towards him. Cursing his secretary for having those bottles of water in his office, he quickly summoned his sand and used it to protect him from the oncoming attack. Itachi, on the other hand, took this chance and jumped above Gaara and flung a shuriken towards the shield. Shuriken Kage Bunshin no Jutsu. One weapon soon became many, and a shower of stars made their way towards Gaara. The redhead grunted as he pumped more chakra into his sand, protecting him from the assault. He watched as Itachi landed sideways against the wall, sitting there watching. Sabaku Q. He whispered, and as quickly as he said it, sand appeared from behind Itachi, trapping him. Sabaku Susu. He forcefully closed his hand and watched the sand mimic the action. To the Case Cage's surprise, the Itachi that was caught disappeared in a puff of smoke. Falling for such an amateur trick, I'm beginning to think that without your Biju, you really are weak. Itachi taunted from behind Gaara. The Uchiha concentrated some chakra to his fist and smashed it against Gaara's face, sending him crashing through his desk and into the wall. Get up. I'm not done with you yet. Gaara coughed as he stood up, kicking aside the broken pieces of his desk. No, we're done here. He slammed his hands on the ground and smirked. You were caught in my trap from the moment you stepped foot inside my office, Itachi, and because of your arrogance, it will cost you your life. The room suddenly began to change. Ceilings, furniture, the colors on the wall. Everything began to look like the color of sand. Itachi raised an eyebrow, a curious expression on his face. You think sand is going to trap me? Gaara smirked. Not just any sand. It's a shitload of sand. Sand began to appear throughout the room, and within moments, the entire room was composed entirely out of sand. You see, Itachi, my gourd was a bit too small to hold all my sand, so I improvised over the years. The entire room and everything in it is composed of my sand. It's like a genjutsu but with sand. There is no escape for you today. Itachi watched on as sand slowly came together, surrounding both Gaara and him. His Sharingan was blazing in his eyes, and he could tell that his mark wasn't bluffing on this one. This sand was different from the rest. It had more chakra, and from the looks of it, it's been storing chakra for quite some time. Sabaku-ru, Gaara whispered. He watched as the sand came together, forming a circular barrier and trapping Itachi inside of it. 7:30 p.m. Kumogakure no Sato. In this well-known village of Kumogakure no Sato, the night represents a time of quietness and serenity, but instead of that, the village was crying out in pain. The streets were drenched with blood, the dirt soaked up so much that the brown soil was now red. The stench of blood was so strong, it could be perceived from miles away. What the hell is this, Hidan? I leave you alone for a good 15 minutes, and when I come back, you flood the streets with the bodies of Kumo's Anbu. Hidan gave his partner a cheekily smile. They were just asking to meet Lord Jashin, Kakuzu. Anyway, how did you turn out? Kakuzu sighed. The Raikage reluctantly agreed to our terms. He's currently retrieving the scroll for us on the condition that we stop killing off his men. How about we take the head of the Raikage? Hidan suggested. He twirled his scythe around before slamming it into the ground. It'll be fun. How about it? Kakuzu shook his head. He's not important enough to be worth my attention, but on the other hand, that new kid is.
Uzumaki?
Have you seen his bounty? He's worth 3 times as much as mine. I don't think it's a good idea. The brat has the Kyuubi inside of him. Who knows what will happen if he resorts to unleashing that beast? Hidan said. I may be immortal, but I'm not stupid to mess with the wrath of a demon. Kakuzu scoffed. We captured the Nibi with ease. What can that Uzumaki brat do? Hidan counted the ways off with his fingers. Well, for starters, the leader will kill us. Then the Kyuubi will eat us alive, and oh yeah. Did you forget that the Kyuubi is the strongest of the Biju?
Wimp.
Mortal. Insane religious freak. That hurt. Hidan replied. He sported a mock-hurt expression on his face. That was a low blow. Kakuzu rolled his eyes. That's the problem with you. You haven't lived long enough to have seen the world, kid. Money is everything here, and as long as you have it, you control power and respect. I really don't care what you say, Kakuzu. The Kyuubi is something that I don't even want to deal with. I'm just glad he's on our side. His partner laughed. What? Afraid that the brat will show you how it feels like to be mortal? Kakuzu taunted. Never. Hidan sharply answered. But seriously, when he fought against Deidara, I didn't even feel him use the demonic chakra even once. If he's this good without the Kyuubi, think about it when he uses it. He is truly something to be feared, and I doubt that even with all your hearts, we'd be able to lay a finger on him. Kakuzu thought about it. His partner had made several good points in reference to the brat, but even still, the thrill of the hunt was in his blood. He was a bounty hunter before anything else and didn't get a thrill from hunting weaklings. It's the strong ones that gave him the most satisfaction. His thoughts were soon interrupted by a messenger sent by the Raikage. Excuse me, gentlemen, the messenger timidly said. The Raikage requests your presence right now. Hidan laughed. So he requests our presences now. The Raikage sure acts like a big man when he's not dealing with us directly. He put his arm around the messenger and grinned. Do you know what I hate about people who requests things from other people? The messenger nervously shook his head. No sir, I don't know. What do you hate? Hidan brought his scythe close enough that it made a small cut on the man's face. I hate people who refuse to do their own jobs themselves. He whispered back. The messenger began to quiver in fear. Please don't kill me. I'm just a messenger here. Relax, kid, I have a heart. Why don't you run off now? We got a meeting with your Raikage. The messenger nodded and disappeared. Kakuzu rolled his eyes. I hate it when you toy with them. Just kill him and get it over with already. But it's so much more fun this way. Hidan laughed. He licked the blood off the scythe and his body proceeded to turn black, giving him the appearance of a grim reaper. White lines proceeded to appear over his body where the bones under his skin would be. His feet dragged on the ground, drawing a symbol on the moist dirt, and taking a spiked metal rod, Hidan licked his lips as he drove the stake into his heart. The feeling of his organs being pierced gave him a sense of pleasure, but what caused him more joy was the sound of the messenger's screams of agony and despair as he felt his own heart pierced by iron. Yes, this was Hidan's ability. His immortality and his wound transfer to his victims when having their blood made him a very dangerous opponent to deal with. He dropped to his knees for a couple of seconds as the exhilarating sensation invaded his senses. He removed the stake from his chest within a couple of seconds thereafter and regained his composure within the minute. Let's go show them the power of the immortal duo, Hidan said as he stood back up. The wound that just inflicted upon himself slowly disappearing. Immortal duo, Kakuzu smirked. I guess that's a fitting name for us. 8 p.m. Konohagakure no Sato. The village of Konohagakure was known to have raised legends with each passing generation, and while each generation managed to produce ninjas of great caliber, they all had one thing in common.
October 10th.
This date will be forever remembered in the pages of history, but what was so significant about this day? This was the day that the Yondaime of Konohagakure defeated and sealed away the Kyuubi no Kitsune, the mightiest of the 9-tailed demons. On this ceremonial holiday, people usually spend the entire day celebrating, but there was always this one person who hated the day. It wasn't because he didn't like it, more like because on October 10th, it was a day of survival, his survival. While most children learn survival techniques from their parents at an appropriate age, Uzumaki Naruto had to learn for himself just how dangerous the ninja world was at the tender age of 5. It was on this day that gave him the first taste of the misery that life has to offer. After being chased by drunken villagers, beaten at the gate by local boys, and then having ninjas breaking into his apartment, it was more than enough to drive anyone crazy, but not Naruto. The boy was indeed special, believing that there was always an upside to life. 15 years later, he knew how big of a mistake it was to believe that life only had an upside. No, in fact, it was just the opposite. There is no upside to life. Naruto grunted to himself as he strolled through the market district of Konoha, reliving the haunting memories of his past. When he had first snuck in through the front gates under a henge, he first visited his old apartment, but when he got there, the place was torn down for a new spacious hotel. That didn't bother him much. His apartment was just like any other place Naruto lived in, a temporary home. Hell, home was too good of a word to be wasted on that dump. It was just a prison that sheltered him during his early years. As he walked through the crowded space, he casually minded his surroundings. Even though he was under henge, he still didn't feel safe. Besides hiding his new cloak and birthmarks, his normal blonde hair was now black. Even with this simple henge, no one was able to recognize him, and it was better off that way, leaving everyone else none the wiser. He soon found himself standing at the outer edge of the city square, watching a performance take place. Naruto snorted in disgust as he observed the storyteller interact with the crowd, not paying much attention to his remarks and version of reliving the successful, yet tragic battle of the Yondaime Hokage and the Kyuubi no Kitsune. He heard the crowd shouting boos when an incredibly fake and inaccurate depiction of the Kyuubi appeared, but when the hero of the story jumped on, everyone started cheering. Naruto gripped his hands tightly, his blood boiling as he heard the insults from the crowd. Get the demon. Skin it alive, Yondaime-sama. Dirty filthy demon. Thank Kami-sama that you're dead. Praise the Lord for our savior, the Yondaime of Konoha. Having heard enough, Naruto left the performance and started to walk once again. Those idiotic villagers were too ignorant for their own good. There were so many times during that performance where he felt like slaughtering them all within a blink of an eye. The only thing holding him back was the fact that he was in a village full of ninjas. While Naruto continued to stroll around the area, he kept a watchful eye for any Chunin-level ninjas, but surprisingly, he didn't see any. What was even more surprising was that he didn't see any of his old friends. Something was wrong here, for they had always showed up to the stupid celebration every year, yet today, oh well, it didn't matter. If anyone got in his way, he would make them wish they didn't. As Naruto continued towards the Hokage Tower, he passed by an alleyway where he caught the scent of blood. It was fresh too. Just smelling blood caught his interest as he slowly walked into the abandoned alleyway. When he got closer, he heard sounds of someone crying and whimpering. This is what you get for standing up to someone as great as me. Yeah, boss, show him the error of his ways. Naruto stood in the darkness, his cerulean eyes staring at the scene that played out before him. A group of bullies were beating on a helpless boy, but that wasn't where his eyes went. His attention was drawn towards the mask that the boy held near his chest. It was an Anbu fox mask. More importantly, it was his. He recognized the crack on the bottom right corner. He vaguely remembered what happened to his mask. He must have dropped it when he was leaving this village and the boy kept it. Hey boss. We've been found out, the third boy said. He yanked on his boss's sleeve, getting his attention. The boy that was committing the physical assault, who the other two nicknamed the boss, stopped and looked towards Naruto. What's it to you, mister? Naruto shrugged his shoulders. I'm just curious to why I caught the scent of blood. What you're doing here is none of my business. The boss smirked and nodded his head towards his subordinates, signaling that everything was okay. They continued with their beating on the helpless boy as Naruto stood there, watching. Hey, stop beating on him right now. Someone shouted. The boys froze in their spot, fear written across their face. Stupid brats. Wait until I get my hands on you. Oh shit boss, it's the she-devil from Anbu. One of the underlings shouted. The boss turned around and saw her. Crap, it's Ino. Run, he shouted as the boys broke apart, running in different directions. Ino growled as she stood at the entrance of the alleyway. Those idiotic villagers, teaching their children to hate something that doesn't even concern them. It pisses the shit out of me. She put her hands on her hips. And you should have stopped them. What they were doing was wrong. Anger clearly hinted in her voice. Naruto slowly turned around to face Ino, wondering why she was lecturing him. It wasn't any of her business if he stopped that fight or not. Why did she care? She should be out there getting drunk like the rest of those idiots. He pictured her wearing some really hideous purple outfit, but when he finally laid his eyes on her, it blew his entire mental image of her away. Standing by the entrance, she was dressed in the complete opposite of what he thought she wore. In fact, she was dressed in a beautiful purple kimono that hugged her curves perfectly. Her hair was tied back into a ponytail and she finished it with a frown on her face. Are you another demon hater too? It's people like you that I can't stand. Always so closed-minded and refusing to accept the fact that Naruto was a good man. Teaching the new generation will get you nowhere because as long as I'm here, I'll make sure that people like you will never succeed. Why can't you just accept Naruto for who he is and not what he was? The way you villagers think truly disgusts me. Hearing her talk about him like that, he now had a different opinion about her. Naruto sent Ino an icy glare that made her cringe when she looked in his eyes. He didn't bother explaining himself to her as he walked by, but before he was out of hearing range, he whispered something that only she could hear. Back then, no one bothered to take the time out of their schedule to help me. I don't see why I should be any different. Ino's eyes widened as she quickly turned her head to get a better look at the man, but when she tried, the man disappeared, leaving behind only a small breeze of wind in his place. Who the hell was that? She whispered.
Hawkage Tower.
While the celebration took place in the market district of Konoha, the other areas of Konoha were left unguarded. The Hokage Tower, for example, was left with less security. No one expected anything to happen tonight. Not a single assassination attempt, not a single murder, not a single burglary, because tonight, everyone had a common interest.
Except for one person.
As Naruto made his way towards the tower, he spotted a lone figure guarding the outside entrance. Putting on his best smile, he approached the unexpected Chunin on duty. How do you do, sir? The Chunin quickly looked over the visitor and grunted. This area is off limits. Leave this place at once. Naruto shook his head. I can't, sir. I need to use the bathroom in there. Can you please let me go in for a second? I won't take long, I swear. I said no. You have to leave now. But I really need to go. The Chunin sighed and took out a kunai. If you don't leave now, I'll skin you alive faster than you can scream. Don't think that I won't. There's no one here and you'll be dead before you know it. The seasoned Chunin had a sadistic smile on his face, which pleased Naruto. He started chuckling as the Chunin looked on. What's so funny? Do you really want to die? Naruto grinned as he held up a single hand seal. Kai, he whispered. That single word struck fear into the heart of that man. He watched as the man he assumed to be a villager turned into something completely different. Digimon. The Chunin stuttered out. He felt his legs giving out as Naruto approached the man. Within a blink of an eye, the Chunin's head rolled off his body and dropped to the floor. Naruto scoffed at the man's futile attempt. All I needed was to use the bathroom, you pathetic piece of trash. Oh well, it's not my loss. As Naruto made his way into the building, he felt several chakra sources around him. He reached under his cloak and took out several kunais before throwing them. The chakra sources that he sensed in the room dodged skillfully and dropped their disguise. Halt! You are not allowed entrance here. State your name or be prepared to be dealt with. Naruto slowly raised his arms into the air, signaling that he was unarmed. My name Anbu-san. It's Uzumaki Naruto. The Anbu quickly jumped back and immediately put their hands on their swords. You dare step foot back here, demon? Naruto nodded as he took a step forward, resulting in the Anbu unit charging forward. Fools, Naruto whispered. Nothing is going to stand in my way tonight. As soon as he dropped his right hand, he summoned his blade of wind and with 3 swipes, the entire Anbu unit dropped dead on the ground. He stepped past the dead bodies and stopped in front of the doors that lead to the inner chambers of the Hokage's sanctum. As Naruto pushed open the doors, he was greeted with a person that he was not expecting to see. His eyes narrowed as they began to glow red from anger. You, he whispered. Hello Naruto, the person answered back. Techniques Musashi Shoku no Jutsu, asexual reproduction, splitting into 2 beings. No matter how we reach the conclusion, the ending will always be the same. 8:30 p.m. Konoha no Sato. Killing intent exploded from Naruto like a broken reservoir, the restraints that he once had no longer applied. His usual blue cerulean orbs were now turning into a shade of blood red, an obvious indication that he was angry. Why the long face, Uzumaki? Aren't you glad to see me, or should I say, us? You two must have a death wish for sticking around, Kaharu, Homura. The names rolled off his tongue like a cobra's venom. You dare to have the audacity to show your faces after what you did to me? Naruto angrily said. Short bursts of contemptuous laughter were their reply. We know why you came here today, demon, and I find it very ironic. For you see, today was the day that you first stepped foot into our world, and it shall be the day that you leave it in pieces. Naruto's eyes lit up as he flung his arms out, detaching his cloak from his shoulders. Do you hear that? He asked menacingly, his tone unrelenting and mocking. Did you hear that sound? The room became still. Not a sound was heard as Kaharu and Homura listened for whatever Naruto was referring to. Hearing none, they became flustered. What madness are you talking about now, demon? A sadistic smile answered their question. The sounds of your deaths.
Iwagakure no Sato.
On the 2nd floor of the cage tower, the once mighty chambers that once belonged to the Tsuchikage no longer remained intact. The events just suddenly occurred. One moment, the room stood together firmly, and then, everything blew sky high. Standing in the middle of the decimated room was the Godime Tsuchikage of Iwa and a certain S-rank missing nin. Shibata calmly took a deep breath as a frown appeared on his face. You dare use that taijutsu style in my presence? Why the long face? Are you shocked that I was able to master this particular style? It's not a fluke, by the way. To prove his point, Deidara slammed his fist into the ground, producing a mild shockwave. The Tsuchikage narrowed his eyes and shook his head. Your mother would be crying in her grave right now, Deidara, using her style in such a naive way. Deidara spat on the ground and glared hatefully at the old man. Don't you dare speak about my mother like that. You lost that privilege on the day you abandoned her. I can see the resemblance between you and her. She was a fool for teaching that style to an outsider, and you are more of a fool to use it against me. If I'm such a fool, then why am I confident that I will wipe the floor with you? Deidara taunted as he moved his left leg forward. Shibata sighed. Do you still understand nothing? You truly are a worthless grandson of mine. Moving like the wind, Shibata lunged forward and slammed his fist into Deidara's face, sending his grandson to the floor with one blow. Who the hell did you think taught your mother the Tenkan style? Deidara growled as he supported himself up with one knee. The old man certainly surpassed his expectations with that one move. He didn't think he was capable of moving at that speed. Gangeki. With no time to counter, Deidara did the only human thing possible. Take the attack head on. From the corner of his eye, he could see Shibata performing the attack, but his body needed time to recover from the previous attack. Deidara summoned chakra to soften the blow as he felt the attack against his back. Gah! Deidara felt a loss of breath in his lungs as air rapidly depleted from his lungs. Shibata wasted no time and prepared for another attack. Gangeki. Deidara foresaw the attack and pushed himself away, rolling out of the way and dodging the near-fatal blow that almost connected with his head. While he was rolling around, he flung several clay birds at the Tsuchikage. Shibata was no slouch either. The title of the Tsuchikage was only given to the person when they were considered to the strongest, and he was the strongest out of everyone. He slammed his hands into the ground, feeling the cold hard exterior of his floor. Doden. Dai Doro Geishi, the man firmly yelled. A huge earthen wall appeared in front of Shibata, causing Deidara's projectiles to explode when they collided with the wall. You're getting rusty, Deidara. You cannot beat me with such sloppy tricks. Who's using tricks? That was merely a distraction. Deidara uttered as he smashed through the earthen barrier and stepped inside Shibata's defense. You're mine. Tenkan, Hyaku Jyu Go, Aoshutsu. Deidara unleashed a fury of rapid strikes, all aimed with the sole motive of crippling Shibata permanently. He thought he had the upper hand when he landed one blow near the Tsuchikage's wrist, but his smirk slowly turned into worry when his grandfather started countering his move, one by one, and eventually matched him in moves. What? Deidara stuttered in surprise when he found his grandfather penetrating his defenses like it was nothing. Who show? Shibata quickly concentrated chakra to his fist and forcefully connected his punch with Deidara's chest, sending him spiraling to the floor. Oh, you pathetic grandson of mine, Shibata said, shaking his head disappointedly. The Tenkan style which I developed was made especially for defense. It gives the user the natural control to feel the movements of the enemy. It is only natural that since the taijutsu style was created by studying the movements of the earth. Your techniques are useless against me. The Iowa missing nin wiped the blood off his mouth and glared at his grandfather. You were always the hard ass of the family. Tough as stone and cold as ice, but I'm willing to bet that defense of yours isn't so sturdy anymore. He stood back up and tucked his hands into his back pocket. I'm going to destroy you today, old man, and once I'm done mopping the floor with you, I can finally leave my past behind. Shibata laughed. My blood runs deep in your veins, Deidara. You are my daughter's son. No matter where you go, who you kill, you will always be my grandson. With that said, Shibata dashed forward and leapt high into the sky. At his maximum velocity, he began twisting and turning before spiraling quickly down towards the ground. Ryu Seitaken, the Tsuchikage yelled. Deidara saw the incoming attack and his body began to quiver. Is this fear? He thought. No, I fear no one. His eyes, which usually had a cocky look in them, was slowly being replaced with a fiery determination. TCH, making me use this move. The blonde missing nin began taking several deep breaths before flipping through a series of hand seals. Shibata, even with the distance between them, could see that his grandson was plotting something, but it didn't matter. This attack will shatter anything that stood in his way. Doden. Kibaku Nendo, C5 Teppaki. No, Shibata shouted as the name of the technique was revealed. He desperately tried to change the direction, but at the speed that he was falling, there was no way to do it. This is it, Gramps. Deidara yelled out. Don't be late for your appointment with death. As Shibata came closer to the clay fortress, he forced himself to change his position so that instead of crashing headfirst, he would land backwards into the clay. It's not over yet. Shibata turned his head slightly, measuring the distance and time he had left before he landed in the exploding clay. His hands quickly went to work, going through 3 hand seals. Ox, snake, boar. Deidara had a smirk on his face as he slowly anticipated the loud explosion that would soon follow. The triumphant expression then turned into a frown when he saw his grandfather hitting the clay, but in an unusual way. Instead of crashing into it, his grandfather slammed his palm on top of it. His eyes widened when he saw his own clay fortress slowly twisting and shifting until it became an earthen golem. It's a pretty handy technique, isn't it, Deidara? Dibaru no Ohotoko, his grandfather answered, slightly winded. I hate you, I hate you, I hate you. Deidara yelled out. Why can't you just die? The Akatsuki member ripped off his special clay pouch and stuffed his hands into it. Within moments, he waved his hands around, clay began falling from his hands. Doten. Kibaku Nendo, C10 Sen Buben. Shibata was a man who had seen almost everything, fought in many different kinds of battles, and he considered himself well-rounded enough. He never thought that today was the day when he would actually be rendered speechless. 1,000 soldiers created from exploding clay appeared in his office. Each hanging around or standing on top of each other, staring at him with their twisted faces. It was an understatement to say that he was shocked. It was 1,000 of them against his golem and him. It certainly wasn't his day. Die, Deidara coldly said. Shibata pulled his golem to shield him against the oncoming attacks. His mind rushed to find many different solutions to this problem, but all of them resulted in him dying. The last words that entered the Tsuchikage's mind were the name of his grandson. Deidara. Deidara, he shouted with everything that he had. Shibata held up the seal of the ox and angrily glared at his grandson. You're not the only one with a final jutsu. Doten. Shino Gojinka, those were the last words from the Godime Tsuchikage. After that, everything went black for the two warriors. The mighty epicenter from the earthquake swallowed Deidara's soldiers at once, causing a chain reaction that resulted in a huge explosion. Deidara had a faint smile on his face as he felt his vision blackening out. I did it, he whispered as he fell into the ground, steadily losing consciousness. The entire tower started shaking, indicating that it was at its limit. The earthen golem that Shibata created saw the building falling apart and in its duty, carried his master to safety. Senpai, I told you that I won't carry your sorry carcass back to the base, but in the end, you did well. Toby said as he emerged from the ground. And it looks like you held up your end of the bargain. In his hands, there was a dusty old scroll that held the Iwa symbol on it. Let's go home. The orange-masked nin proceeded to lift Deidara up by his shoulders and disappeared into the night, making haste back to base.
Hiragakure, no Sato.
Zetsu sighed for the 100th time as he continued searching the first-floor library. With each passing second, he was growing more and more impatient with the search. This man had an endless supply of books and scrolls lying around. It could be days before they locate the scroll. Just as he was about to reach for the next book, a small explosion occurred, causing him to drop the book. He felt another similar explosion and he sighed. His other half got bored. What are you doing? I'm just having a little fun. This place bores me to tears. His other half responded. And besides, the man should be killed. I say we hunt the Mizukage down. No, our goal is to find and retrieve the hidden scroll. It just happens that I found it. It's a feisty little thing. Having the seal of Kurigakure and all. It must be important if the man had to keep it hidden behind his portrait. It was hidden behind there. Zetsu inquired. How did you know to look there? Wait, I don't even want to know. Now that the boring job is out of the way, I'm blowing this joint. You have 2 minutes to leave the tower and meet me outside. I loaded the entire room with enough exploding tags that would make Itachi-san's Amaterasu look like a small bonfire. Zetsu frowned upon hearing his other half's reply. If Itachi-san heard what you were saying, he would castrate the both of us. If you're done, let us make haste. I'm already outside, his other half answered back, with some humor in his voice. Zetsu growled as he stepped outside to the balcony and looked down. His other half was standing there, waving with a big grin on his face. Better come down before it blows. He leapt over the railing and landed gracefully next to him. Why are you blowing it up? Because the man's an insult to losers everywhere. I refuse to let his legacy continue. What does that have to? His other half held up his hand, shushing and demanding silence. It's starting. A smile appeared on his face. He took out a small piece of paper and wrapped it around a kunai. With expert precision, the kunai lodged itself in the middle of the wall. Zetsu was about to open his mouth again, but an explosion beat him to it. In the place where the office of the Mizukage once stood was now a fireworks display. Fire erupted from the building, causing everything around it to go up in flames as well. It was pretty impressive. He didn't think that exploding tags could do this much damage. He emitted a low whistle, showing that he was impressed.
Good job.
Thank you. Zetsu touched his counterpart on the shoulders and the two joined back into one entity. He held the scroll safely in his palms and carefully examined it. The original scroll of the Mizukage. It's so old and fragile. I wonder if there's anything written on it. Don't. The lighter side replied. Leader Sama would kill us if we destroyed the scroll. He could feel his darker side quiver from the mention of their leader, and he couldn't help but agree. Pain Sama was a cruel man who didn't tolerate failures. He shuddered to think about what happened to the last person who failed. It was a pretty gruesome sight. Let's make haste back to base. The two of them said in unison. Leaving the crumbling tower to fall slowly, the Akatsuki member disappeared into the trees.
Sanagakura no Sato.
It was rather unexpected, even impressive to some extent, but one thing was for certain, it wasn't amusing. To think that Gaara had the ability to pull something like this off, it made him rethink his entire approach. Maybe he should have just killed him right there and ransacked his office for the scroll. Itachi scowled at himself as he judged his predicament. Never let yourself be caught off guard. That was his #1 rule, and he failed miserably. Itachi kept a frown on his face as his Sharingan slowly analyzed the situation. It would seem that the sand is a lot harder than normal, and that was probably due to the stored chakra. He didn't want to resort to this, but Gaara didn't leave him with any other choice left. He sighed and closed his eyes, preparing himself. Gaara was smirking the entire time, his hands slowly controlling the sand. Breaking into my office I can forgive. He forced even more chakra forward, compressing the barrier even more. Hiding in my office I'll even forgive. The cage took a deep breath and closed his eyes. Hell, I'll even overlook the murder attempt, but to threaten my wife, just for that, I will not forgive you. He lifted up his hands, as if he was lifting up an invisible tower. A pain-struck look developed on his face as he concentrated. His hands slowly closed themselves into a fist, the barrier mimicking the actions. Die, Gaara whispered as he felt the burden slowly slipping from the corners of his mind. Just as he was about to finalize the attack, he felt a huge chakra spike from inside the sand dome, and he intuitively reinforced it with chakra. Just standing outside, the temperature of the room gradually increased, causing Gaara to sweat. Why is it so hot in here? He asked as he felt sweat dripping down his face. His eyes widened as a black spot appeared. Not knowing what that was, he stopped his attack and jumped away. It was pure luck that he managed to escape, because if he had stayed a second later, he would have been toast. A line of black fire exploded from his dome, incinerating everything in its path, including his office. Gaara slightly panted as he watched Itachi slowly emerge from the sand, with that irritating frown on his face. Congratulations, Gaara. You have done what others could not achieve. You have forced me to use one of my trump cards. Consider yourself lucky, Itachi stated as he took a step forward. Conjuring the Amaterasu was no easy task. It was extremely painful, and it took a lot of chakra to maintain. It was a trump card as well as a double-edged weapon. Gaara chuckled slightly. You should also consider yourself fortunate, Uchiha Itachi. You are the first person to break out of that. There will be no more hesitation on my part to kill you, as there will no longer be a second time for you to escape. Kill me? Itachi asked. You cannot deceive the Sharingan, you fool. I can see your chakra reserves. Quit the dismal effort in trying to cover up your lack of chakra. That attack must have taken a lot out of you. The cage shook his head. I can say the same for you, Uchiha. The Amaterasu drains the user of their chakra. You are in the same boat as I, but you forget that even without chakra, I can manipulate the sand to my liking. I have the upper hand here. You are within my territory, and my Anbu squad is patrolling the area. That may be true, but you have forgotten something, Gaara. Itachi said, raising his finger. You're not in your world anymore. You're in mine. The world that Gaara once knew suddenly disappeared. The beige colors of his office slowly melted away, being replaced by a dark shade of red and black.
What the hell is this?
Welcome to my world, Cage Dono. Itachi answered. For the next 72 hours, you will be repeatedly stabbed and cut by this katana through the stomach. He saw Gaara struggling against his bindings, which amused him some more. Don't bother to escape, Gaara-kun. This is my world and in here, you will not escape. Let us begin. Itachi plunged the katana straight into Gaara's stomach, causing the young Cage to scream out in pain. 71 hours, 56 minutes left. Wait, Gaara cried out, masking the pain behind his firm but shaky voice. Just wait, Gaara begged. No, that was Itachi's answer as he plunged the sword into Gaara's stomach again. 71 hours, 53 minutes left. Arg! Gaara yelled as he felt the weapon twisting inside him. Tch, this is just an illusion. How the hell does it arg? 71 hours, 50 minutes left. Itachi's automatic voice answered. Tsukuyomi is a unique technique only found in those of the Uchiha clan. You cannot hope to break out of this Cage Dono. I have you for 71 hours. Prepare to experience pain like you have never experienced before. In Gaara's mind, 72 hours passed by excruciating slowly, but that was not the true objective of Itachi's Mangekyo Sharingan. The purpose of the Mangekyo is to break the victim down, destroying their mental capabilities before physically crippling them. There had not been a person alive who could withstand the full effects of the Tsukuyomi. Itachi took several slow deep breaths as he felt his headache increasing. Too much usage of the Mangekyo, he muttered. Gaara was a tough opponent to crack. His mental abilities exceeded those of normal humans. Feeling his second wind, Itachi stood up and looked around, searching for the item that he came here for. A metallic safe caught his attraction, but as he walked over there, he heard a small grunt coming from Gaara. It's not over yet, Gaara said as he pushed himself up. Itachi sighed and ignored him. I said it's not over yet, Gaara shouted. Take your defeat like a man, Cage Dono. I don't want to kill you, but if I have to, I will. Defeat, Gaara huffed. The battle isn't over until there is only one still left standing. Itachi walked over and stood in front of Gaara. I admit that you're a tough opponent, Sabaku no Gaara, but don't misunderstand me. I am not pitying you. I am allowing you to live so you can see another day. Just tell me where the scroll is. Gaara hesitated for a moment, before pointing to the metallic box on the shelf. The mental fatigue was finally too great for him, as his hands slowly dropped to the floor along with his body and he was already unconscious by the time he hit the floor. I commend you, Sabaku no Gaara, for putting up a decent fight. If we met under different circumstances, we might have been brothers in battle. If you live to see another day, search me out so that we can finally settle the score. Itachi whispered. He quickly snatched the scroll from the box and proceeded to leave the room, making haste to leave Suna. However, his mind kept nagging at him to do something about the still figure currently lying on the ground, and a deep sigh left his lips as he finally conceded to his conscience. He held up one hand and created a cage bushin. Go alert his wife of what happened. After you have done that, disappear. The clone nodded and in a flash, he vanished. One day, Gaara, we'll meet again, and by then, you had better no disappoint me. And with those words, Uchiha Itachi faded away amongst the winds.
Kumoga kure no Sato.
What the hell do you mean we have to wait? Hidan yelled. Screw that, I wait for no one. He lifted up his scythe and with 3 quick slashes, the entrance to the Raikage's chamber was shattered into pieces, granting them entrance. You dare disrespect us, Raikage Dono? Hidan growled menacingly. You're lucky that you have a bargaining chip or I'll be killing you as well. Hidan, his partner sharply said. Behave yourself. Kakazu turned to the Raikage and bowed his head slightly. I apologize for the rude actions from my partner, Raikage Dono. The Raikage looked slightly frightened but quickly recovered his posture. It's okay, Kakazu-kun. Do you have the requested item? Hi. The Raikage pointed to the scroll in front of his desk. The scroll from Kumo. The Akatsuki duo looked at the scroll and nodded. Hidan walked up and gently lifted it up. He felt Raikage's gaze eyeing his every move and glared at him annoyingly. You got a problem with me? His killing intent oozed out and diffused across the room, making sure the leader of Kumo understood his level of irritation at the moment. The Raikage never felt more uncomfortable in his entire life. He was stuck in the room with two Akatsuki members, and to top it off, these were the two that were rumored to be immortal. He shook his head nervously. I gave you the scroll. Now please go. Ya know what? I don't like your face. Hidan exclaimed as he tightened his hold on his scythe. Maybe I should rearrange it. We're leaving, Hidan, Kakazu sharply said. We take our leave. Why the hell are we leaving? I could have taken him. Hidan complained. And then what? You would feel good for killing a Chunin. Hidan's eyes widened. A Chunin? Are you telling me that the Raikage fled and left that wimp in his place? Kakazu nodded. It seems like we're going hunting for the Raikage, Hidan. A big smile slowly appeared on Hidan's face, his facial features happily agreeing with his partner's actions. We'll teach that bastard to run out on us, but before we leave, I'm going to leave something behind. Kakazu sighed, knowing what his partner was intending to do. Just do it quick. Who knows where the Raikage could have disappeared to? With pleasure, Hidan lifted up his scythe and walked up to the cage tower, where the office of the Raikage was located in. Let's see if this will cut stone. He raised his weapon and started spinning it around before swinging it forward. By adding the momentum from the centrifugal force, Hidan slashed the building, causing it to split apart from one strike. Kakazu rolled his eyes as he watched the building split itself into two parts. Show off, muttered the bounty hunter. Any leads on where that bastard ran off to? We go west. Why west? Hidan inquired. How do you know he went west? I say we go east. Are you questioning my abilities to track? Kakazu threatened. Are you mocking my field of expertise? No, no, Hidan raised his hands up in defense. I was merely voicing my opinions. If I wanted your opinion, I would have asked. Kakazu closed his eyes, feeling the rhythmic beats of his many hearts. He listened for the sounds that were carried by the wind. It was one of those tricks of the trade that he picked up in his early career. West, about 3 hours away. We can catch up to him if we hurry now. Now you're talking, Hidan said as he rushed off. Kakazu nodded and chased after his partner, but not before securing the document safely in his compartment. If it were to be destroyed in their hunt, Leader Sama would kill them over and over for it. Even immortals have something to fear for. An eternity of pain. No one wants that.
Konohagakura no Sato.
Are you making empty threats again, Uzumaki? You won't kill us. You can't, Kaharu said with an overconfident smirk on her face. And please enlighten me to the reason why. I have something you need, something you want. Kaharu snapped her fingers as Homura took out the ancient scroll. I heard you're searching for this. It would be a shame if this accidentally got destroyed. Naruto growled under his breath, but something didn't make sense. How could they have known what he was after? He narrowed his eyes when the conclusion dawned upon him. There was a spy. There has to be a spy from within the organization that tipped Konoha off. So who told you? Obviously you two can't tell a banana from an orange, so who helped you? Homura coughed, clearing his throat. Who told us doesn't matter, but what does matter is that we will destroy this scroll right here. I cannot stand by and let your kind destroy the world. Evil like you should not be welcomed into this world. Kaharu nodded and began flipping through a small series of hand seals. When she stopped at the tiger seal, Naruto immediately knew what she was planning. Before he could do anything, both Kaharu and Homura had their jaws slightly opened and a surprised look on their face. Why? They whispered before dropping to the floor. Naruto caught the scent of blood and his eyes saw the crimson liquid flowing from their bodies. He had a confused look on his face, but he ran forward, hoping to get the scroll and leave before he was discovered. Just as Naruto was about to grab the scroll, something snatched it out of his hands. The figure slowly appeared from the shadows, a huge smirk on the person's face. Greetings again, Uzumaki. For the second time today, Naruto was shocked. Danzo, he quietly said. You killed them. Danzo scoffed. They served their purpose. There is nothing more for them except death. Oh, I'm sorry. You wanted to kill them, didn't you? The warlord innocently asked. So instead of two old farts, I get to deal with an even older fart. It doesn't matter to me. I'll kill you this time around. I don't think you comprehend the situation. I have the scroll. You need it. You see how this works. You cannot threaten me. Naruto's attention left the warlord and his eyes fixated themselves on the scroll that was located in Danzo's hands. There was no way he could be fast enough to move over there without Danzo noticing. After several moments of speculating the events, he arrived at a conclusion. What do you want, Danzo? Naruto finally answered. Swear on the grave of the Sandaime that you would forever serve me. If looks could kill, Danzo would have been dead in an instant. Naruto's reaction was undeniable. He was furious with the man's request and his angry snarl proved it. You dare ask that of me? I serve no one. You will serve me. Danzo roared. Obey me now. His hands clutching the scroll tightly in his fist. Naruto wondered if he could summon his blade of wind and slice that hand off, but this was Danzo here. The man wasn't senile yet. He may still be the same crippled man, but he was still dangerous. Well, my servant-to-be. Have you, Ga? Danzo suddenly choked on his own words. His breathing became irregular. His eye trailed down to his chest, surprised to see a hand sticking through it. I finally found you, Danzo. Naruto stood there, a little shocked at the turn of events. First Kaharu and Homura tried blackmailing him but ended up dying at Danzo's hands, that in turn wanted his absolute loyalty but also ended in his death. Was this just an unlucky cycle for whoever holds onto the scroll? Did you think you could escape from these eyes? Danzo gasped for air as he tried to form sentences, but his strength was rapidly fading. Uchiha Sasuke, he barely got the name out. Sasuke shoved Danzo forward and revealed himself. He removed his arm from Danzo's chest and watched as the old warlord dropped to the ground, taking his final breath. Is this what you want, Naruto? Sasuke asked, holding up the scroll. Are you going to blackmail me as well? Naruto asked, rolling his eyes. That would make you person number 3, or was it person number 4? I don't remember. I lost count after the first one. Sasuke remained silently as he looked over Naruto's attire. Akatsuki, huh? That's a big step up from being the Anbu commander. What the hell do you want from me, Sasuke? You took everything that I had. Power, respect, love, do you want my life as well? I want a fight, Sasuke answered, his eyes staring at Naruto as if they were measuring his abilities. A fight? Naruto asked with surprise. Why a fight? Have you ever wondered why I testified against you? We both knew that you were innocent. Sasuke answered with his own question. Naruto remained speechless, showing nothing but an emotionless mask. Enlighten me, Sasuke. For power, Naruto. For power. You had it all and I wanted it all. Shinrei offered me the chance to achieve great power and all I had to do was to testify against you in court. Shinrei. Sasuke shrugged. He is not important right now. I'll say one thing, Naruto. I have improved. Just give me the scroll and stop wasting my time. You know you can't beat me. Fine then. Here. Sasuke tossed the scroll towards his old teammate, but before Naruto could get a hold on it, Sasuke vanished from his spot and greeted Naruto with a fist to the face. Naruto felt Sasuke's fist connecting with his jaw as he crashed into the wall. He narrowed his eyes and growled. You were never the brightest one, Sasuke. Crying over this, crying over that. I never saw Itachi cry once about slaughtering your twisted clan. He angrily said. You work with Itachi? Sasuke darkly asked. Well, this is pretty convenient then. If I beat you, that means I'm one step closer to beating Itachi. Naruto laughed. You beat Itachi? The man is the genius of all geniuses. There is no way a wimp like you can hope to beat him. I dare you to say it again. Sasuke roared. Naruto shushaned from his spot and went for a karate chop, but before his blow connected, Sasuke disappeared in smoke. Bunshin. Naruto pondered. If that was a Bunshin, then Chidori. Sasuke yelled out as Naruto quickly looked up. Sasuke growled angrily when he saw the blonde's hand tightly gripping his wrist, stopping his attack from connecting. Your moves are boring. Why don't you try something new? Naruto said in an uninterested tone. Sasuke pulled his wrist down and smirked. Right hand Chidori. Naruto's eyes widened when he heard the name of the technique. Watching his ex-teammate form the Chidori without any hand seals definitely caught him by surprise. He gritted his teeth, trying to keep himself from screaming as Sasuke impaled his right hand through his shoulder. How's that for interesting, Dobi? Sasuke asked, sarcasm written in his voice. The Uchiha then began pushing Naruto, slamming him against it. With his left hand free, he waved it nonchalantly in his face. The right hand symbolizes respect while the left hand symbolizes glory. I respect you enough to acknowledge your power, Naruto, and now with my left hand, I shall be victorious. Naruto chuckled as he spat out a little blood. Foolish little Sasuke, you have yet to understand the powers that bind us to this pitiful place. Until you realize that your world is nothing compares to others, you will never win. Sasuke's Sharingan rapidly began spinning. Why is your chakra moving like this? What the hell are you doing, Naruto? You wanted power so badly, Sasuke. Let me show you what power really is. Tsunade-sama, are you sure you can be sitting here like this? Shizune half-heartedly protested. What would the council say? To hell with them, Tsunade loudly answered. If they don't like it, they can go. Do something. Tsunade took another sip from her sake and happily sighed. There's nothing like a good cup of sake, right, Jiraiya? The toad Sannin merely grinned and nodded. You bet your boobs that you're right, Tsunade-hime. Shizune sat in the booth watching the two talk back and forth. This was the first time in months that Jiraiya came back to visit, and it wasn't on happier terms. Jiraiya, what are we going to do if Akatsuki succeed with their plans? Nothing. Jiraiya laughed in his drunken state. Tsunade-hime hid the scroll before we left. There is no way they can get their hands on it, but if they did, it would mean the end of the world anyway. Hear, hear. Tsunade joined in. The two held their sake saucers up, cheered. To the good life. To the women at the hot springs. The two broke out in laughter as they chugged another bottle of sake. Laughing away their worries and reminiscing like old teammates. You two are embarrassing me, Shizune quietly muttered as she slowly sank into her seat, wishing that she could just disappear. Instead of a calm, happy night, a loud explosion occurred, causing panic to spread throughout the village. The outburst occurred near the location of the Hokage Tower, more specifically, the roof of it. Sasuke panted slightly as he stood on top of the broken roof. Naruto, on the other hand, stood there as if nothing happened at all. Give me the scroll and I promise that I won't beat you so badly. Over my dead body, Dobi. That can be arranged, Tem. Sasuke removed the kusanagi from its sheath and slowly walked around. Naruto took notice of the weapon and produced several kunai from his weapon pouch. The two slowly circled around each other before attacking. Naruto took the initiative and threw the kunai while leaping in the air. Sasuke saw the attack coming and instead of blocking with his sword, he held up his left hand and smirked. Pathetic. His hand slowly began to glow and take the shape of Senbon needles, which he then threw with pinpoint accuracy, effectively cutting the kunai in half. However, his eyes widened when he noticed that there were exploding tags wrapped around them. Sasuke jumped aside, avoiding the exploding tags only to find Naruto coming at him with a huge Rasengan in his hands. In his eyes, he saw that he couldn't dodge the attack in time, so he braced for impact.
Udama Rasengan.
Naruto shoved the attack into Sasuke, thinking that the match was over until he felt something moving afterwards. Something huge came through the smoke, smacking him in the face. Naruto did a backflip in the air and landed on his feet, his eyes never leaving the image in front of him. Finally, it comes out. Naruto stated, I was wondering when I would be seeing it. The second level of your cursed seal. Shut it, Dobi, or I'll close it for you, Sasuke growled. In an instant, the two disappeared, exchanging blows that surpassed all limits. Blow for blow, it was countered and the force of the blows caused several small gusts of wind to stir. Sasuke grunted as he blocked a hard left punch from Naruto, but when he went to counter, the blonde never took his left hand off Sasuke's foot, swing the Uchiha around like a doll. Naruto grinned as he tossed Sasuke to the ground, enjoying the battle fully. Come on, Tem-chan, let's take it up a step. Naruto taunted. Sasuke immediately pushed himself off the ground and performed a series of hand seals. Kaden. Gokaku no Jutsu. Sasuke held his fingers to his lips as a fireball the size of a meteor came out. Instead of the orange color flame, a dark blue flame was produced. As the jutsu came closer, Naruto could feel the intense heat radiating from the technique. Taking a mental note to avoid being hit by any future Kaden techniques, he jumped out of the way. Come at me with your scary level 2 form, Tem-chan. I want to see the power that Orochimaru Yaro gave you firsthand. This is true power, Naruto. Not the bullshit demon power that you have. Sasuke stretched his shoulders back, causing the giant wing-like hands to begin flapping. This is what true power has granted me, the power of flight. Sasuke leapt into the air and took out something from his back pocket. Naruto stood his ground as he pondered his next move. Sasuke took this as an opportunity to finish Naruto once and for all. The object that he removed from his back pocket was nothing but wire. He smirked as he tied it around several pairs of kunai. Naruto was going to be the demonstration of the expression, going out with a bang. The Uchiha dived towards Naruto, his hands holding onto several kunai. Just as he was about to throw the projectiles, Naruto appeared in front of him with a boot to the face. Sasuke hit the floor hard, but that didn't stop Naruto from continuing the assault. His Sharingan flared when he recognized the blade in Naruto's hand. Fool, you can't cut me. Before Sasuke could finish that sentence, he felt a sharp pain eliciting from his back and realized what happened. He immediately retracted the curse seal and dropped to the ground, the pain unbearable for him. How? The Uchiha angrily asked. How did you cut me? Wind is not just a defensive element, you naive fool. I have the ability to make the wind so sharp that it can cut through even diamond. The next thing I'm slicing off is your head. Naruto held up the sword as Sasuke stood there, too shocked to move. This is goodbye forever. Just as Naruto was about to bring down the sword, something shifted in the wind. Naruto looked around and sighed. Sasuke. Not taking the time to let Sasuke answer, Naruto began making a small circular motion with his right hand. Be gone, Tem. Sasuke didn't have any time to react when he saw Naruto's fist come in contact with his chest. He didn't know what hit him. At first, it felt like ice, but that quickly turned to shock when he suddenly vomited blood. A huge amount of wind exploded through his back, causing everything he had to scatter on the ground. Kunai, keys, exploding tags, wire and the scroll. Naruto saw the scroll fly into the air and flip Sasuke over, slamming him into the ground. With a small leap, Naruto caught the scroll with ease and looked it over. All this trouble for a piece of paper, he muttered. He turned his head to look at Sasuke one last time before disappearing. On the other hand, Sasuke felt his world come crashing down the moment Naruto cut his wing. His ears picked up the faint sound of people coming closer and hesitantly, he picked himself up. Gathering his possessions, he disappeared as well. Kakashi-sensei, what happened here? Sakura asked as she surveyed the damaged rooftop. The cycloptic ninja walked around as if he was looking for something. Noticing that something was off, he lifted up his Hitai-8. With the Sharingan now out, he could see the small visible trails of chakra, and there were so many scents in the area. The smell of blood was also strong here. A battle occurred, and it was probably a big one. His eyes widened when he recognized a couple of the scents. He was here, his voice shaking. He was definitely here.
Who? Naruto.
Just on the other side of walls that separate the world from Konoha, Naruto had his back leaning towards the wall, busily trying to fix the wound on his shoulder. Damn Kyuubi and his idiotic ways. My mistake, so fix it yourself, the furball says. Stupid demon. If he were real, I would show him a thing or two. Unknown to him, a figure was slowly watching him from the dark, deciding if it was a good idea or not. When the figure heard Naruto muttering to himself, there was nothing left but to go ahead as planned. The figure held two fingers together in a triangular form and sighed. Here goes nothing. Naruto stopped applying bandages when his keen sense of hearing picked up some whispering. He looked around cautiously and shrugged it off. The next thing he knew, he was falling backwards, and the last words that he heard were Shinranshin no Jutsu.